Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hope you're all doing very, very well. We got Jason. Jason's here. We got Hanley's Hatchlings. We got Mags Morphs as always. We've got Ewing. Absolutely awesome to see you guys keep checking in. That's wicked. So, just waiting for a few more people to catch up and get involved. We got Chris. Good evening, Chris. Just waiting for a few more to come in. And then we will get on with tonight's topic. We've got Michael over at Excite Ball Pythons. We've got CLC Pythons in the house. We've got Kerry as always in the house. Uh, Hope everything is all right up there in sunny Scotland. Miss all my Scottish supporters. Love them all dearly. Hope you're all doing well up there. Yeah, you sound a little bit quiet, Gav. How's that? Is that any better? Hopefully, that should be. Trying to keep the mic. Yeah, hopefully that should work. And everyone at Prestige Pythons we got in the house. Um, yeah, awesome. Hopefully that's better. Um, so yeah, I want to get on to tonight's topic. But before we do that, if you guys have any questions, or maybe you thought of a question last week, sorry, Sunday, and I took so long to get on to get on live and this that, and the other. If you do have a question tonight, let me know and we'll try and answer that, and we'll go through. So, feeding ball pythons. Okay, let's talk about this. So I just want to pull something up. There we go. That's a bit better. Let's see. It's not so distracting now. Okay. So obviously you guys know it's sort of coming to the end of the breeding season now for 2020, and we're kind of going into 2021. One thing I haven't spoke about much recently is about problem feeders. And when I talk about problem feeders, there's different categories. So we can talk about hatchlings, juveniles, and adults. Okay. I'm going to touch on hatchlings mainly tonight is going to be the topic, because I know a lot of you out there are either been in the hobby a long time and you kind of got your the ways how you do it and everything like that. You've got it nailed down and you're probably very happy with how you've got the way you do things. But there's also a lot of new people to my Patreon who either haven't bred, or they're expecting their first clutch or what have you. So we're just going to run very quickly over the basics. So for those who are veterans, if you guys have any little hints and tips for the new people into the hobby, or even for me, I always love to learn, then please put them in the comment box on the YouTube. Hopefully you guys are all here, because I know some people have had issues with Patreon, and what people have had to do is what I do is when I load up Patreon, and I don't know if it's a issue with Patreon on iPhones or whether it's just Androids, whatever. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy the link, okay, and I'm going to put it for those who are on Patreon. I'm going to put the link on Patreon. So what I want you guys to do on Patreon, if you're struggling to see or to even type on YouTube, what I want you to do is, it should be there now. You guys should be able to see the link. Okay, I want you to copy and paste that link, open up your YouTube, or put it in your browser, depending, and paste that in there, and it should bring you to this broadcast. Fingers crossed. Hopefully that's going to work for you guys. If it has worked, if you guys were struggling, if that has worked, just put in the comments for me on YouTube, not on Patreon. Put on the YouTube comments so I can see the live chat now. Let me know that it's working all okay. All right. So, as I was saying, if any of the veterans in the building If you guys have any you know, any quirks, anything that works for you, put them down in the comment box below. Nick, yes, that worked awesome, because I know Nick was struggling, I think, so we've got that sorted. So I know what to do in future. So it's all a learning curve. Anyway, so let's talk about feeding baby ball pythons, and I'll tell you straight to the get go, is probably most likely most of your hatchlings, their first meal will be a live rodent, whether it be multi, mouse, or rat. So I advise anyone who starts breeding ball pythons, start breeding rodents, even if it's only just a couple of colonies. You haven't got to go crazy, but it's just something for your hatchlings. So you've got um, rodents on backup, if you know what I mean, rats on tap, if you like. It's important. You need it, because what I find is alive. You can get them going on. You can get them going on frozen thawed pretty much straight away. But out of all the hatchlings I've had this season, there's only been one snake that has switched, refused live, but took frozen first off. So um, predominantly it's all live. So the first 2 or 3 meals I give them are live. And what that does, it gives them the ability to it gives them some balls, basically. And what I find is a baby ball python is very nervous, very jittery, likely to strike at the prey because it doesn't know what it is. What I tend to do is I tend to put in, so let's talk about multis. So I put in something like a hopper, not a crawler, a hopper, not not a big hopper, just past the crawling stage, but a hopper stage in there, because what I tend to find is the snake will look at it and think, can I take that multi? Can I take it? Can I take it in a fight? Yeah, and win. So I find something that crawls, they're not really that interested. It doesn't get them going. Yeah. But if you put a little hopper in there that starts bouncing around, it's almost like it's asking for a fight with a snake, and the snake's going, yeah, come on then, I'll have you. It's a bit like that. So it gives the snake confidence to get involved and sort of go from there. So my advice would be, if you are going to breed ball pythons, you need to start breeding your rodents. So um, we've had a question come in from Salop Snakes. How long after its first shed would you feed? Normally, I used to do 10 days. 10 days after its first feed, I would see the animal be looking for food. But what I've noticed, it can be anything from 5 to 10 days. So I tend to look at the hatchling and see how it's reacting. And what you'll find, sometimes some of its brothers and sisters can be a little bit more eager to eat than the others. And so sometimes I tend to work between 5 to 10 days. As Michael said, put a hide in the tub and leave the rodents in there for a minimum of 1 hour in the room, then feed the snake. Feed when dark outside. Exactly right. Zoe's here as well. Great to see you, Zoe. Thanks for joining in. Okay, so you guys have seen how I set up a hatchling. So going back to the basics, set up a hatchling. Nice. I use the black plastic piping, cut it down. Use that. It's nice and dark. It's nice and tight for them, so they feel safe and secure. What I tend to find, between 5 to 10 days after shedding, they tend to start to switch on. And what you need to do is get in the mind of the snake. And what you'll get is, you'll get the snake once it starts to get its bearings, it'll start to go hunting. Okay, so small hoppers, about so big, multis we're talking about. Okay, just so it gets them sort of eager to eat it, and almost like it can take its prey. Okay, so it can take it on. I tend to find the first 2 to 3 feeds are live, and then they switch on to frozen thawed. Now what you will get is sometimes they'll feed live, but then they'll switch. First meal will be live, and then they'll switch straight onto frozen. It doesn't always work out that way, and sometimes you need to give them a bit more live before they switch to frozen. And I can tell you, there's only out of 300, 300 babies this season, 350 babies this season, there's only been probably 4 or 5 which are still on live, but fortunately I'm keeping those. So it kind of makes no odds. Eventually they will go into frozen. But yeah, Michael mentioned some good tips, which I've spoke about in my other feeding videos, where you leave the rodents in the room for the scent to get round the room, okay? And on an evening, trust me, like now, I've just been in the HQ. I had someone sort of picking up a snake, a good friend of mine, and I can see the babies are at the front of the tub, including the adults, and it's dark outside. So it goes to show that they kind of do know when it's dark. So always feed at night. Leave the rodents in the room to defrost, or if you're getting live, just put them in the room, let them sit in the room, let the smell go around the room, and that will help with their feeding response as well. So that tends to be how I feed my hatchlings, and I'll switch them onto frozen. And then, as I said to you before, the other night on Sunday when we did the live, I feed now. I've changed my schedule. I don't fill out the feed cards anymore because it just takes me way too long. I feed on the 5th, the 10th, the 15th, the 20th, the 25th, and the 30th. If you get an issue with a problem feeder, what I do is I put them on a shelf. So Paul asked me tonight, Paul from PJ Pythons, he said, well, how do you keep track of your problem feeders? Well, I have a separate shelf on my hatchling rack where all the problem feeders go. Okay, so I know I need to address those hatchlings, and the others are okay and they're feeding fine, but those I need to address. So what I'll do with them is I'll keep offering them live. Again, not too big, not too small. Leave it in there for an hour, like Michael says, and then pull them out if they're not eating, and then just keep assessing them. Every 5th day, 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th, keep offering them food and see what happens, basically. Now, I had a leopard het clown that hasn't eaten. So, for those new to the hobby and they may not have heard this method, I had to train feed this hatchling. And what I mean by train feeding, I thought this would be quite interesting to bring up. Malcolm Morph's here. Good to see you, Malcolm. Is basically you start by getting the head of the rodent, not too big, just a bit bigger than their own head. Now, bear in mind, and this is something that a lot of people get confused with Maltese, they pack more power to the punch. Okay, so you can afford to have a smaller Maltese than you can a rat pup. Okay, because a lot of times rat pups are too big to do the assist feeding or force feeding, so they use rat pinkies. I use rat fluffs. I use multi fluffs or just small hoppers, and that seems to work perfectly. It's just a little bit bigger than the head, which means when you're putting it down the throat of the snake, it's not too much for them to handle. Now, bear in mind, when this hatchling hasn't eaten now for X amount of weeks, this hatchling now is quite skinny and quite weak. Okay, you kind of take it to the point where it's either eat or die, and you've got to step in. Okay, now there's a thing called train feeding, as I said. So you get the head, you get the rat pup or the multi pup in this case, and you start to put it into the mouth of the snake, and the snake will start to eat it one jaw at a time, like so. Okay, and then what you do, just as the snake is getting towards the bum end of the rodent, you take another multi with the same size, same everything, and you then sort of start to get some tweezers. It's better with the tweezers because it won't see your hand temperature or the thermo regulation coming off your hand or the heat source coming off your hand. Use some tweezers and just put it just behind the bum of the other rodent, not the tail, the bum. Okay, so all of a sudden you've got two rodents sort of going in together. Okay, and what the snake will do, the snake will carry on going over the second rodent. Now, what that does, the first one is not really powerful enough to get it going. And what I find is the rats, when you do it with rats, they certainly aren't powerful enough. But because the rats are bigger, you can't really train feed because it's too big. The Maltese, like I said, pack more power to the punch. So using two small Maltese like this is the equivalent of like a 15 to 20 gram multi, as in the power of the protein and the fat content. Okay, so what this does, now this hatchling now has got two small meals in its stomach, and all of a sudden its digestive system starts to work. Okay, so with it working now, what we get is a snake which is taking all the nutrients. Now bear in mind they're hatchlings, so and your temperatures on a hatchling are slightly higher, normally between 90 to 92, round about there, Fahrenheit, on the hot spot, so they digest food quicker because it's all about getting the food in them to get them well established. Okay, so what we do, we then chain feed it, and it then takes this nutrients inside its belly and it starts to pull back into the muscle all the nutrients. And all of a sudden this snake now, instead of it being a little bit weak and not so much weight on it, it's now got a real good substantial meal inside it, and it's starting to pick up. Okay, the energy levels coming back. 9 times out of 10, again, wait 5 days, and on the 5th day, you offer it a frozen thawed. So what I do again with all my frozen thawed, I dip the head in boiling hot water. Okay, wipe off the excess so that the head is glowing to them. Yeah, and then you offer it to the snake, and sure enough, they take it. And sure enough, you can offer like either the same size that you use to chain feed, or you can offer a slightly bigger. And this is where, like I said, having your own breeding group will allow you to cull rodents at your desired weight or at your desired size, because sometimes you may need smaller rodents as opposed to them being too big because you've got problem feeders, so you've got to do the assist feeding, etc., etc. But chain feeding is really, really good. It used to be seen as a bad thing back in the day because what people used to do was use it as power feeding. So what they do, they take an adult, it'd start eating a rodent, coil it, whatever, and then all of a sudden they'd wait for it to start to get finished, and then they'd give it another rat. Okay, that was power feeding. 9 times with ball pythons, if you try to do that, it will regurgitate its whole food and it won't eat anything. If it's something like a boa or a berm or a retic, then they will take it because they're dustbins. So when you use the right methods, it's fantastic and it works, and it's such an amazing accomplishment to see a snake that's starting to eat and eating on its own accord. So it's very important that that there's no recipe. I can't say to you, this is how you feed baby ball pythons. This is just something you learn and you adapt with as you grow as a breeder. You learn to adapt, you learn different things, you try different things. If it doesn't work, that's fine. As long as you've tried it, it's not an issue. But you'll be pleasantly surprised if you don't try something and it actually works. Like, I get messages a lot saying, oh, my snake's not feeding, I've tried everything. Okay, have you tried live? No, I haven't tried live. Okay, well, let's rewind. What do you feed it? I feed it rats. Okay, have you tried Maltese? No, I haven't tried Maltese, I can't get them. Well, you haven't tried everything, have you? Yeah. So it's always good to have knowledge and lots of things in your armory, let's say, to use. But I get this question a lot. I've tried everything. Well, okay, when are you feeding? Well, I feed in the daytime at dinner time because I go to work on an evening. Right, okay. Well, you know, hatchlings aren't too bad, but when they get older, they're not going to want to feed. Right, okay. So you've tried everything. Have you tried dipping the head in hot water? No. So you haven't tried everything. So there's so much to learn and there's so much to keep stored up there that you can never know it all. And I love learning new things, and I love it because it makes me grow, and I feel like I'm getting better at my hobby. So always learning new things is fantastic. So um, train feeding, or chain feeding as it can be called, works really well. And if you use it correctly, especially for your hatchlings, it will absolutely do your hatchlings the world of good. Okay, amazing. And another tip for people with hatchlings, they can be very, very nervous, very nervous. So if you've got lots of feeding or cleaning to do, hopefully you don't do the cleaning and the feeding at the same time because it'd be quite dangerous if you get my drift. But if you've got a lot of feeding to do, feed your adults first, feed your hatchlings last, turn off the light, go to bed. Yeah. Don't start working around in the room and changing waters or wiping down your racks or whatever. Just feed your hatchlings, turn off the light, walk out. They can easily get spooked, which means they won't eat. So don't spook your babies. Feed them last, turn the light off, go to bed, leave the room. Whatever you got to do, just do it as your last job, okay? Because that will also make a big difference as well. I'm going to jump over to the comments for a little bit and just speak and see what's cracking off on the comments. So it's good to see other people are joining in, and we've got Niels here, we've got Apex. It's okay, Apex. You can go back and watch this. There's plenty of good information for you Patreons. Kerry, if I have to assist, I chain or train feed too. Important to stay calm and be still, and lots of breeders can panic. Yeah, I mean, Kerry's been doing it years. She's a fantastic breeder. She's up in Scotland. So anyone in Scotland, if you don't know Kerry, get over, give her a follow. She's really, really knowledgeable. So a few others up there. Steve's up there, great guy. There's lots of great people up in Scotland. Which if you're struggling, ask them and they can help you. With any bits and pieces. So yeah. If it does not go for it, do you chain feed again? So Malcolm, so if it does not go for it, so basically you're not making it go for it. What you're doing is, as the snake jaws move independently over the rodent, yeah, you put in the next one with some tweezers, just gently, sort of next to it, and if you catch it, it's almost like catching a fish. You've got to hook it right. Do you get me? So you've got to sort of get it just right, and it just goes, and you just wait, and then it has a rest, and then it'll go again, and then all of a sudden it'll start to take the second one. If it doesn't, I wouldn't bother, because the snake is stressed. There's no point stressing out any further. If it hasn't chain fed the second one, at least you've got a meal in that snake. Wait 5 days, offer it frozen. If it doesn't take it, then, and you've got to assist feed, then try and chain feed that assist feed, if that makes sense. We've got Mel in the house. Good evening, Mel. Yeah, give Kerry a follow on Kerry's Reptiles. Fantastic. Again, like I said to you, I say to you guys all the time, this community that's on here, I know majority of you, Bearded Snake Guy, Ash, we spoke earlier on the phone. I know most of you you're all good people. A lot of you are the type of people as well that you want to help other people, and also you're willing to accept help. Okay, so if you're not following each other, check each other out, who you are, give you guys a follow. Um, trust me, it's all about the community. And a lot of you guys on here are fun. Well, all of you guys, not a lot of you, all of you guys are fantastic. Um, hence why I do it. So yeah. Um, so Malcolm, if you chain feed first time and all goes well, 5 days later does not take food, will you chain feed again or leave them? Yeah, so I would. So with a hatchling again, like I said, it's important to get the food in them. I wouldn't chain feed the second time. So if you successfully chain fed the first time, that's fine because you're kind of kick starting it. The second time, what you'll probably find is again you can try. I normally have two size prey at this point. I would have the one that I would use for chain feeding, like just slightly bigger than the head, as in a multi, yeah. And then the second one I would have slightly bigger. So what you'll find is I would try again. You grab behind the back of the head, and then you open the head of the snake with the rodent, with a rodent's head, and you offer it in. Now, sometimes what I've had is, and I try with a slightly bigger rodent this time, what you'll have is they won't strike it themselves, but the minute you put the rodent's head in the mouth, they'll clamp down and coil it themselves. So by giving them a bigger prey first to see if they do that, will save you a lot of hassle. If they don't do that and you need to start assist feeding, then take it back out and try and go with a smaller one. Okay. Um, to be honest with you, I wouldn't chain feed the second meal, but if you want to try, it's fine. You know, this is something that the everything that I tell you is stuff I've found, stuff that I work. It works for me. I do it. um, I'm not saying it's right. There could be another method. Something else could be better. You know, you couldn't. You may want to chain feed twice. The way I look at it is less stress on the snake, the better. And if it's getting one meal in it, it's better than no meals. So I always look on the positive side as opposed to thinking, I want to get this snake up to weight as quick as possible, and I want it to feed because I want it to look beautiful, and I want to start using it. Um, it's no rush. The health of the snake's important. Get it feeding, and then you can slowly start to up its prey items if you really wanted to. So I hope that answers the question, Malcolm. Um, just looking back, so saving my arse again. Promise I won't bell or phone out. It's cool, honestly, and like I said, I'm here to help, and it is what it is. But hopefully we'll crack that one out, Ash. Um, Never too old or clever to learn more, I say. Yep, totally agree. Prestige. Always learn. Always learn. In actual fact, um, I gave Justin a call. Was it yesterday or the day before? The day before, and we were talking and we were chatting over things, and we exchanged some um, findings, if you like, and we were geeking out basically over projects and animals and stuff, and I told him some stuff about the Gene X project that I'd found that he never sort of knew, and he took it. This is in my eyes, Justin's probably one of the leading guys that we know. Um, and he took it really well, and he took the information in, and he was really like, oh, that'll answer a few questions I've had, and so you're never too old to learn stuff, and you never, you're never at the top end of the ladder, let's say. Always keep learning. Let's just have a quick look down. Nick, I had to assist feed a snake. I have had 2 months. It's 6 months old. It was starting to show its spine. Will not buy from a reptile shop again. Yeah, unfortunately, Nick. Um, yeah, I've seen some horror stories, and it's a shame because most people who get introduced to reptiles go into a pet shop or reptile shop, and they think that's the place. They get the animal, and then all of a sudden they find this community, Morph Market, Instagram, YouTube, and then they see that, oh God, I've brought from the pet shop, and God, you know, it happens, but it's a learning curve, my friend, and we're all learning. Going to assist 2 ways and come with a method. You need to cannot get down. Yeah, so I did a video. So Ash, the bearded snake guy, said, I did a video a few years ago about getting the rodent down. Yeah, it was, again, I try not to repeat videos that I've done, but sometimes I think I've got to go back and recover videos or recover stuff because I've found something new, and this and the other. So, Kieran's in the house. Kieran, KJD Exotics. It's a good job you've joined now, mate. I swear we wasn't talking about you before. Promise. We never said nothing. Yeah. So obviously you guys can tell I've managed to work out the live and where the issue was. What actually happened was YouTube have changed from the classic streaming studio that they had to a brand new format that's, yeah, let's just say the old one was better. Everything's going well. I've been working on the HQ today, getting further forward. Excited to show you the progress. But check this. So you guys who may or may not know, I paired 47 snakes, males to females, this season. I had 43 lay eggs, okay, which was fantastic, absolutely buzzing. However, I've had the 4 that didn't go. Certainly one of them has just started what I call a mini ovulation. Now, this is something else that not many people are aware of. What I see is some females will actually ovulate in small, almost like mini ovulations. They'll have a couple of mini ovulations, then they'll have either one big ovulation or they'll just have a concession of small ovulations. And what I believe this is the follicles, different follicles, are moving into the oviduct, which is where they get fertilized by the male sperm, and that's what causes the ovulation. But what I find is some ovaries or ovum move into the oviduct. Some of them get fertilized, and then the rest follow. Yeah, and then they get fertilized. Hence why you get mini ovulations. Anyway, I'll diverse. Eddie and Sons are in the building. Evening all. So my pastel exantic female has kind of started to do mini ovulations, and she was bred to a fire clown. So that could be clutch number 44, basically 44. So that's looking promising. I've also got a one of the other females that didn't go, or I thought didn't go, is also looking very promising. That was an Enchi yellow belly calico bred to a blackhead male. So this season I haven't produced anything blackhead, but hopefully this female has gone off food, because before she was like a tank. She'd eat anything. She looks like she's going to start building, which is fantastic. She's call seeking. So that'll be clutch 45. Okay. The other one has started call seeking, and that was a pastel Enchi special, and I believe I bred the leopard clown to her. We'll see. I need to check my records. So that'd be clutch 47. If she goes on, she's call seeking. She's gone off food again. She was a monster. I don't see, if you can imagine these snakes so far in order, different stages. Yeah. So I've got the pastel exantic who is kind of ovulating. I've got the Enchi yellow belly calico that's building and call seeking. I've then got this pastel Enchi special, which I think I brought as a pastel Enchi special, but I think she's just an Enchi pastel, but we'll see. She was bred to the leopard clown, I believe. She's now at the beginning stage of the call seeking and the building, so she's gone off food. And then the last one, which was a banana Mojave black pewter female. She was also bred to the leopard clown, which will be female 47. And she is now, again, gone off food, started to search for the cool end. Now, I'm not saying all these females, these 4 females are going to go, but I can guarantee at least 1 or 2 of them. So what's the point of me telling you this? And it's not me bragging and going, oh, look at me, I've got loads. No. What I'm trying to point out is when something works, when you dial something in and when you learn, something works and it works fantastic. So I look back over the seasons and I go, why did I mess up this season? Why did I succeed this season? What did I do? And it's not about pairing loads of females together. It's about learning your collection. It's about learning what you can do to make your collection more, more successful. So, like, let's take, for example, Billy. Billy's a great guy. He's got around about 400 breeding females, or 350, 400 breeding females, but he only gets 200 clutches. Now, if that I was Billy, I'd be like, why am I only getting 200 clutches? What's the problem? Because if you've got 350 to 400 females, they're costing you in a business sense. They're costing you money because you're feeding them. They're not producing everything, so they're kind of a drain on your income or your resources. So for me, what I like to do is don't make massive jumps. Okay, you may have 10 breeding females, but my advice would be start with 5 and aim to get all 5 to go. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it won't work, but aim to try and get 70% of your females to breed. Find out what makes them tick, and this is where growing them up from a hatchling makes a massive difference. Find out what makes them tick and make them work. Make them do the job that you've held them back for, you've brought them for, to make these projects work. So for me, it's all about finding out, if I had, like last season, I had 11 clutches out of 40 females that I bred. Okay, this year I've upped it to 47, so I haven't jumped massively. But what happened last season? Why was last season such a failure for me, if you like? It was still positive because I produced some beautiful animals. But what did I do wrong? And I know what I did wrong. I moved them for a start. That was the first thing. And sometimes moving animals isn't a problem, but it can be. I moved them. I changed their bedding, and I also didn't pay particular attention to their feeding regime. So, in other words, I was feeding on like a standard maintenance schedule. Okay, so it was just like once every 7 days, feed. And what I learned with the females, and I've said it before, and this is, last season was a real headache for me. There was lots of stuff that went on in my personal life, and sometimes shit happens. Okay, but I can stand there and go, I learned this from last season. I didn't put all my attention into my snakes. I moved house, I moved facility or room because I'm a bedroom breeder. I moved rooms, moved house, sorry. I changed bedding and all this, and I didn't feed them enough. And all this kind of adds up. And a lot of people would say the reason why I've had a good season this season is because the females have had a year off. That's not fact. And I'll tell you why. Because if that was fact, then females would only breed every 2 years. Mother Nature has a crazy way of making whatever she wants to do work. And if an animal is set to breed every year and only have one cub or one clutch of eggs, or some obviously species of snake, they double clutch. So colubrids can double clutch, so you can have two clutches. So there's reasons why Mother Nature does it. So if those snakes are bred are meant to breed every season in the wild, if they come across a male, then they will. Fact. I know my issue last season was me. It was my fault. It was my fault, straight up. But this season, I applied a lot of ethics, a lot of work, and sure enough, the work has paid off. So what I'm trying to say to you guys is, don't think that if you're going to go out there and get 100 breeding females, all 100 are going to go. They're not. Work off slowly, build your collection, and every year, I would say to you, if you're looking to expand, expand steadily. Yeah, take it easy. Maybe add 5 females to your breeding team. And I don't mean go out and buy 5 breeding females, but how you should be working is the whole backs should be growing up and getting into your collection or into your breeding team. Okay, so steady, build it up nice and slow, and away you go. The new HQ will hold round about 150 breeding females on the one wall, and I have 2 walls. I'm not going to do that. That's just future proofing me. But what I'm trying to say is I've got room to grow, and a lot of people will go out and they'll go, well, I've brought this collection, I'm going to breed them, I'm going to make loads of money, and I'm going to live happily ever after. It just doesn't work. Take your time, build up slowly, work with what you've got, make things work. And if you can't find what works, then you've got to find what works. So in other words, if you're struggling and something's not right, then find the answer, find out what's working. If you had a great season last season and this season's no good, why? What happened? What changed? And this is something that there's a breeder, good friend of mine, great guy. This season has probably been his best season so far. And then he says to me, well, he says in the group that I'm in, he says, I'm going to maternal incubate next season, all my females. I'm like, why? Like, that's nuts. I've maternally incubated one female, and I tell you now, stress levels were through the roof because I was worried about that female. If you've got something that works, don't go and change drastic. Don't do anything drastic. You can tweak things, but don't do anything drastic. Maternal incubation's beautiful. It's wonderful. Watching those babies hatch out on their own, naturally, it's amazing. But it's stressful. It's it's crazy. So my advice would be, if you want to maternally incubate, that's fine. Just try it with one good female. You want to try it, give it a whirl, but don't take all your females and maternally incubate them. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but just tweak it. Yeah, you get my drift. So just tweak whatever's working for you. Just tweak it. So moving forward, like I said, next season I'm going to be probably going for 50 females there or thereabouts, maybe a few more depending on my projects. but it's that slow increase. Okay, so slowly, steady increase. So I'm just going to jump over onto the chat. Hopefully that all makes sense and it gives you some food for thought. So let's have a quick look. It does thank you. I've produced blackheads for the first time, quality animals. Yep, Kieran, you've had some great success with blackheads, and I feel it's only the start. It's just the one I got from them, and I know they're a good shop. I know they are a good shop. Listen, some reptile shops are great, but some aren't. And you know what I want from you guys to understand is the only we care, or we sometimes I care too much, but it's all about caring and looking after each other, and that's it. What are your nighttime ambient temps? So Chris, what are your nighttime ambient temps in the winter? So okay, I don't adjust ambient temperatures at all. My room is whatever my racks heated up to. Now, if you've got a lot of racks in a room, in a small room with no ventilation, then that heat, that temperature is going to rise rapidly. So you need to be able to control the heat in your room. But what I find is, like at the moment, where the snakes are, which is in the room in the house, because obviously I'm building the new HQ, the top window is open, okay, and I don't shut it. And if the temperature drops outside, the ambient temperature drops inside. So my snakes feel what's going on outside. Like now, and this is why I think some of the females have started to act up the way they're acting, is because they're seeing that change in weather. And if you guys remember, I said last season I paired my my snakes when we had all that crazy rain in October last year. We towards the end of October we had crazy rain. Well, it just so happens our rain now is starting in October. So the air pressure drops because the window's open. The snakes feel the cooler air coming in, and they also feel the pressure drop. So that helps a lot. So in answer to the question is, my ambient temperatures are controlled via what's going on outside. They probably drop as low as 76, let's say. But again, I just let the room do its thing, and I find over the years, whether they've been in a house, in a bedroom, or in a house, the back of the house in a shed, or in a brick building, I don't have any supplement heating. So like the room that the snakes are in now, the radiators are off. It's only heated by the racks. I don't have any ambient temperatures as such. I just let the room do its thing, and I find that's given me more success, or the success, let's say. So hopefully that answers your question. So okay, one of mine went through the stages of food building. Yeah. Just reading through your comments, guys. Keep things simple and stress-free. No need to overcomplicate things. Yeah, that's correct, Zoe. And this is something that a lot of people overanalyze. Like, and this is no disrespect to anyone at all. And it's all about finding stuff out. But it's good. I can't tell you the last time I shot the temperatures in my females' tubs. I tell a lie, I can. It's when I moved in, because obviously I set everything up. But what I'm saying is I haven't done it since. What I do is I look at the snakes and see what they want. If they're all at the back and they're all on the hot spot, then I know the temperatures are too cool, turn it up, adjust it however. But don't overcomplicate things. And I see this a lot with people and hatchlings and eggs in incubators. They're checking the humidity, they're checking this, they're checking that. And I'm like, whoa, just calm down. Don't overcomplicate things, okay? If you're watching or following 3 or 5 different people, those 3 or 5 different people may do things differently. So what you do is then you end up taking bits from everyone and trying to that these bits of information clash because their room is different to their room or their situation is different to their situation. What you've got to do is you've got to find your own baseline. Yeah, your own baseline of temperatures and what works. And then what you do, you look at things and you go like, what's going to work for me? Like a walk-in incubator. I could have quite easily have incorporated a walk-in incubator into the new HQ, but I'm not about to risk all my years of hard work in one incubator, in a big incubator, in a walk-in incubator. And the reason why a walk-in incubator is different to a drink cooler incubator is this. A drink cooler fridge, yeah, is designed with installation in mind. It has to keep the drinks cool. The insulation on a drinks cooler is far superior than a building. Why? Because a building has to breathe, whether it be a tiled incubator room, whether it be a brick incubator room, it makes no odds. Whether it be a room in your house, makes no odds. Air can still pass, and it's not a very good insulation room. Hence why when your radiators go off in your house, your room goes cold. So for me, if an incubation room was to fail, you've lost a hell of a lot of clutches. What I find is I've heard horror stories over the years where people have had incubator rooms, they've failed, and they've gone back to the old uh, fridge cooler, drink cooler situation where they've gone back to using those incubation methods. And again, it's not about just because Justin's got a walk-in incubator, I want a walk-in incubator. It might not work for you. It works for Justin because he's got it set up the way he's got it set up and it works. He's in a different climate, etc., etc. You've got to find what works for you. Don't overcomplicate things. But what you do is if you are following 4 or 5 different people, you take bits of information from everyone and you put it together and you go, right, that'll work, but that won't. This I'll try. This one I definitely ain't trying. Yeah. And you work out for yourself. And if someone's having issues like a good friend of mine, Kevin, he was having issues, like I said, on Sunday or on previous lives, he was having trouble with his um, incubator. He was having nothing but issues with clutches. Um, sort of like, he had 2 issues. His incubation method was, I feel, overcomplicated and it was creating issues. And his incubator was also not the best. So we changed his incubation boxes for the way I do it. We tweaked his incubator. And this season, he's had fantastic success. We're still not 100% happy with his incubator, so we're going to go back and this coming breeding season, or next hatching season, should we say, we're going to redo his incubator. But my point is this. You've got to find what works for you, your reptile room, whether it be your bedroom, your spare bedroom, your office, your loft, your garage, whatever. You need to find out how that functions, and then you need your racks or your equipment to suit that environment. Okay, so don't overcomplicate things. Don't try and use methods that won't work for you because they're in a different climate or their situation is different or whatever. Just find out sensibly what's going to work for you. By all means, try things, but if you've already got a successful breeding method, then don't change it drastically. Okay, like again, this other breeder I mentioned earlier on about incubation, uh, letting his females maternally incubate. Last season, he decided, because he saw a few people on Facebook only using ambient temperature to control their ball pythons instead of having a hotspot, he was just heating the room via a simple oil-filled radiator. His oil-filled radiator stopped working, and some of his animals perished, and they were high-end stuff. And what I didn't get was his his situation was working prior, and it was successful. There was no need. It was almost like these people had got into his head, and he went, "I'll change everything, and I'll fuck everything up." Excuse my French. And it was just frustrating. So keep it simple. Find out what works for you. Um, so yeah, just going through. I've jumped and missed a few chats. Let's have a look. Yeah, again, follow every. Yeah, guys, just keep following each other, support each other. Nick's put on there. Eden Morphs, so get over and give Nick a follow. Apex, I'm getting my first blackhead this year, a little female, so be a while before I produce any myself. Doesn't matter. Take your time, enjoy it. It's all about enjoying it. Um, yeah, yeah. Mel does the same. She has a window open all year long. Yep, I do. I left my window open all night, and I've had no snakes or no TV when I woke up. Yeah, Kieran. Well, shouldn't live where you live then, dude. Sorry, mate. I have a wolf alarm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mel's got some serious big dogs. I&M Royals. Mel over there, she's got some massive dogs. Trust me. If I broke into that house and I was fronted by one of those dogs, I wouldn't move. I wouldn't move till the police come. I would phone the police myself. So yeah, some big ass dogs. Beautiful, nonetheless. Okay. You got my new racks too. Worm shoe boxes and pound filter, and a pound filter. Pond filter, sorry. Okay. So it's coming up to an hour. I hope you guys have enjoyed this little live. I hope you guys have kind of learned from the bits and pieces that we spoke about. Like I said, just wanted to touch base again with you guys, just go over a few bits and pieces. I love the fact, you know, how things are going. And again, I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting a lot of you guys here and seeing the new HQ. I know I keep going on about it, but it's, yeah, it is what it is. So, yeah, hopefully you guys are all well. I'm going to leave you guys to it because I've got to do a bit of feeding. Okay, so I hope you guys are well. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope I've covered and gave you something to think about. Um, I know I keep threatening it, but I have got lined up some guests, and I'm just trying to figure out how to make it work on the live, um, where I can get you guys involved, or I do it in a way where I have a conversation with the people that I've that have said yes, they'll come on. I have a conversation with them, and I'll record it, and then I'll let you guys watch it at your leisure and learn some bits and pieces. So, yeah, I'll have a think about this one, but I've got some amazing guests lined up. I've got a geneticist. I've got one of the leading ball python breeders since 2000, a guy that I really look up to. I've also got a UK guy who breeds. He's got quite a big collection. So we're going to talk about obviously his his methods to my methods, which are I'm a boutique, like Ozzy says, I'm a boutique breeder. Um, so yeah, we could get Zoom. Yeah, Zoom's another one. Um, But yeah, we'll look into this. So anyway, I'm going to leave you guys to it. Hope you enjoyed this live. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm not sure how many people were in the building. I think there was about 3. Well, we got 23. Wasn't far off. I'm going to leave you guys to it. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just reading some of your comments. It's quite funny. So I'm going to leave you to it. Thanks for joining in. Hope you've all enjoyed this. Love and respect you all. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.